Hello, CRC members. My name is Paul Wagman. I'm a member of the congregation's board, and I'm here today to conduct the first in a series of interviews with members of the board and other authorities at CRC. We're presenting this series to help inform our members about what's going on in the congregation. The series is called CRC Nuggets, Insights from the Board and Other Machers. In case you're rusty with your Yiddish, Machers refers to big shots. Our first interview is with a true Macher, our new board president, Rachel Delston. Rachel, as many of you know, assumed office just last month, and she'll be serving a 2-year term. Rachel, thank you for joining us. I thought I'd
Thank you so much for having me.
I thought I'd start by asking you to tell our viewers a little bit about you, about where you grew up, about what you do for a living, and a little bit about your family, please.
So I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I came to St. Louis to do my PhD in cellular and molecular biology at WashU. And I just never, ever expected to stay in St. Louis. I always thought I'd go back to D.C. Now I cannot ever imagine leaving St. Louis, and that's really because of CRC. I work at a biotech startup in the Cortex called Arch Oncology, and I work on immunotherapies, which are drugs for cancer patients. And so the drug I'm working on right now is currently in phase 1 clinical trials.
Oh, that's exciting.
Really exciting.
Rachel, how did you get involved with CRC?
So I've been a CRC member probably for over a dozen years. I got married at CRC with Rabbi Susan and also a priest. And my sons, Andy and Charlie, they both had their baby namings at CRC with both Rabbi Susan and Rabbi Randy. And we just come to CRC every single week. My son, Andy, says CRC feels like home, and we really feel that way. And one time when we asked where my son, Charlie, wanted to go on vacation for spring break, he said CRC. So really, it's our second home and our love. And I got really involved in CRC through running Menschmakers, which is this amazing monthly mitzvah program for kids and their families to do community service together that Amy Gage founded, our former president. And, you know, Amy just hooks you in. So I ended up having almost weekly lunches with Amy, and we'd initially start talking about Menschmakers, but it became so much bigger than that. And we were just bouncing ideas off each other about CRC. And I ended up applying for a fellowship called the Onboard Leadership Fellowship. That's a 1.5-year training for board presidents and board members and board leaders, along with Josh Hertz and Natalie Schatzman. And I just never, ever expected to be president of CRC, but I'm so grateful to give back in this way. My mother's side was president of his synagogue in Kid, and I heard about that all, you know, growing up, and I used his Kiddush cup that the synagogue gave him at my wedding and the baby namings. And actually, I found out recently my great-grandfather on my father's side was president of his Orthodox shul in Brooklyn. So I'm really honored to walk in their footsteps in that way and to give back
so
to
it was
CRC.
fate in a kind of way, wasn't it? Yeah, it was fate, I say, in a kind of way. Yeah. We're all very glad that we've got such an energetic and capable young new leader for our congregation. Rachel, why don't you tell us what some of your priorities are now for the Delston administration?
So one of the big priorities is to continue a successful campaign that Amy started. We really need this to fund our operations and our rabbis and all the incredible work we're doing. I also want to focus on mission-based budgeting, which is a term that we focused on a lot in this onboard fellowship that I did. And it's really talking about the balance between being fiscally responsible and sustainable, but also holding true to our values. So really trying to find that balance. I'm also interested in an even greener CRC. We are so amazing at being green, but want to even try to do better. And you may have noticed that your annual financial commitment requests came paperless this year, and the high holiday invitations were also paperless. So really trying to respect our environment. And then, of course, working on keeping our Sukkot Shalom, our shelter of peace, open, even when our physical doors are closed in this unusual situation, and really trying to keep engaged, even though we can't be face-to-face in person, we can be face-to-face online.
Yeah, you certainly you didn't. Those are some great priorities, and they're all every one of them affected by the pandemic, which you obviously weren't counting on when you agreed to be president of CRC. Can you? I know this is a complicated subject, but can you give just an overall assessment as to how the pandemic has been affecting the congregation's finances? Are we doing okay despite it?
We did get a loan to cover us through, and which Nancy Wagley worked really hard on to get for us. And we're doing okay, but we really need to reach our campaign goals, and we never expected to have to do that in a pandemic. And, it's always so hard to ask for money in the first place, and even more so during a pandemic. But hopefully those who can give will give more and feel, a lot of meaning that they can help maybe in ways others can't, especially at this time.
Yeah. Rachel, I want to double back for a moment to kind of where we started with this. You have a big job, it sounds like, a demanding job, and you have a husband and 2 kids, and now you're also on top of this the president of CRC. So one question is, why don't you look completely exhausted right now?
CRC is so energizing. When I get to spend time with people, I think my very first board meeting, Rabbi Susan said, "I hope you get it out more than you put in." And I really feel that way 1,000 times. I feel so energized by being near CRC people who are so wonderful and being part of CRC.
Well, that's great, and that's also, I think, a good place to stop this interview. I could talk to you for, I think, an hour at least, but we're trying to keep these interviews short. So let me just finish by asking, is there anything else that you want to tell our members right now before we wrap up?
2 things. One, to vote. I'm wearing my vote necklace. And that CRC has a notary drive on the weekends right now for free, so you can get your ballot notarized. So grateful that we're doing that important work. And also just to leave you with a message of hope in this new year. My son Andy made this in CRC Zoom camp with Josie Talvey Goodman. And it says, Black Lives Matter, different is good, try new things. So just a reminder of what CRC is teaching our children, our future. I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very, very much, Rachel. Appreciate your taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye-bye, everyone.